Hello, America. Welcome to the McCormick View. I am your host, Kevin McCormick. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Most of all, thank you for your support. After a long hiatus, the McCormick View is back in action. We wouldn't be here if it weren't for you. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking NFL, Colin Kaepernick, money, and protests. All of it wrapped up into one topic for today's show. Thanks so much for your time. Make sure you reach out to us on Twitter, THEMCVIEW, and on Facebook at themccormickview.com. Same thing on Instagram, THEMCVIEW. The McView is how you say that. Thank you so much for being with us. Hey, on today's show, this is what I want to talk about. There's been a growing discontentment, if you will, among NFL and football fans that I've been seeing more momentum for a possible boycott of the NFL. People are saying don't watch the NFL and boycott the NFL because they don't like the way that the NFL collectively is treating Colin Kaepernick. A lot of folks feel like the Colin's being punished for his First Amendment peaceful protest stand against racial injustice and police injustice against people of color all across the country. Now, the topic about whether Colin has the right to do what he's doing and whether he's right or he's wrong in the way that he's doing it, I think is going to be a topic for another show. What I specifically want to focus on is the nature of these protests. Folks are protesting or saying they're going to protest by not watching NFL, thereby driving the ratings down, the viewership ratings down. NFL will then panic and respond and make some changes happen in regards primarily to Colin Kaepernick. It all sounds good on the surface, except the reality of how NFL sports economics work doesn't work that way. Here's what I mean. The NFL gets a big chunk of its revenue through television contracts, probably a majority of its revenue through television contracts. Those television contracts are paid by the broadcast networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, Fox Sports. All of those networks pay the NFL a licensing fee to be able to broadcast those NFL games, to have semi-exclusive rights to broadcast portions of the NFL games, i.e., Fox has the exclusive right to broadcast NFC games, CBS broadcasts AFC games, ESPN broadcasts only on Monday night games, and NBC does the Sunday and Thursday night games. So that's how all of the NFL games that are going to be on TV are broken up. Now, DirecTV has a broadcast package as well, where they broadcast all available games that are on for any given week. That's also a part of that, but that's not really a part of my discussion today, although it is included. I just don't talk a whole lot about DirecTV, because that is actually a big piece of the puzzle. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is this. The NFL sports economics work like this. All of those broadcast networks pay the NFL a fee. So the most recent contract that they negotiated runs from 2014 to 2022. That contract, by the time that it's paid out at the end of 2022, will approximate somewhere near $40 billion. That's billion with a B. That's billion with a B. And so as a result of that, that's how much money the NFL is going to take in over the course of that contract. But the NFL gets most of that money up front. If they don't get all of it up front from the broadcast networks, they get a large chunk of it up front, and then they get another large chunk well before the contract ends. So they're not dependent upon television ratings per se. That's not driving their decision. Now, they want to see very high television ratings. They want to see that people are clamoring for the NFL product. I get that. But they're not dependent upon those ratings. This is not like a sitcom where you live and die by what the ratings are. No, the NFL is the NFL. They negotiate these contracts years in advance, and those contracts are locked in, and they are paid for those contracts pretty much up front. So you not watching the NFL, yes, it might drive viewership numbers down, but you're not hurting the NFL. You're hurting the networks, because the networks will pay the NFL a X number billions of dollars for the rights to broadcast those games. And then those networks will then turn around and they will sell advertising against those games that they're going to be broadcasting on any given day. So they charge a certain amount per 30-second spot for the right to broadcast advertisements at specific times during an NFL game. So you've always heard the Super Bowl numbers that come out where a 30-second spot in the Super Bowl is now going for like $4 or $5 million or something like that. It's the same concept, just the numbers would be a little bit smaller than $4 or $5 million. I would say that probably the numbers are more like around $350,000 to $450,000 for a 30-second spot. And there's so many 30-second spots throughout the course of any NFL 3-hour NFL game. So the broadcasters sell those 30-second spots to advertisers, Budweiser, GM cars, whoever, Doritos, whoever wants to buy advertising space on those. And the NFL audience is considered to be a desirable audience. It's considered to be a very strong demographic in terms of the money that they're willing to spend for things that they are interested in. So advertisers will want to broadcast to that demographic using commercials through the NFL games. If viewership goes down, the broadcast networks are not able to charge as much as they would per 30-second spot. So if viewership numbers do go down, and they have been trending downward over the past couple of years, then instead of getting $300,000 to $400,000 a spot for 30 seconds, they might end up getting $250,000 to $350,000 a spot for 30 seconds. It just depends upon what exactly the viewership numbers are. That does not directly affect the NFL. The NFL, in essence, doesn't almost care what those numbers are because they've already got their money. And the NFL has additional revenue sources like merchandising, and the NFL owners, each NFL owner, there's 32 of them, they have their own revenue sources that are more local to their geographic area in terms of ticket sales to, people showing up to the event live, parking to get to that event, concessions, their own local merchandise sales, local advertising spots, local sponsorship deals. So the NFL they have television revenue, they have merchandise sales, they have sponsorships like partnerships, like the official laptop computer of the NFL is Dell Computer or whoever it is. The official beer of the NFL is Bud Light or something like that. So they have those deals. Those are monetary deals as well. So that's where the NFL gets their revenue. They're not dependent upon viewership numbers. Yes, they're concerned about them. They want to make sure those numbers are as high as they can be, but they're not dependent upon. They're not living or dying looking at Nielsen numbers and saying, "Oh my God, viewership is down 3%, viewership is down 5%." They're just like, "Okay, viewership is down. Let's see what we can do to get it up," but they're not dependent on that. So if you're going to protest the NFL by not watching, you're not really protesting you're protesting the NFL, but you're not really making a dent in changing the NFL's behavior about whatever it is that protest is designed to change. And as a result, you need to hit the NFL differently. You need to hit them through their advertisers. You need to hit them through their product sponsorships, because those are the areas where if you want to call it a weak point, that's the weak point. And the reason that it's a weak point, because those companies that are partnering to be a part of the NFL orbit, if you will, those companies don't like controversy. They don't like bad social media out there saying that company X is horrible because they're associated with the NFL. They don't like it when people are protesting outside company X headquarters saying the NFL is, their sponsorship of the NFL because the NFL treats people of color differently than they treat other people, or whatever the issue is that one would protest against. They don't like that kind of controversy. So you would begin to see them backing away if there is a problem or a growing problem with the NFL. They will either back away and say, you know what, this sponsorship is not really for us anymore, or they will put pressure on the NFL behind the scenes to say, look, you need to fix whatever this problem is if you want us to continue to be a partner with you in promoting this sport. And the NFL, if enough of those companies start talking to the NFL about change, the NFL will then begin to change. That's where your protest can have an impact, not by ceasing to watch the NFL. Now, if you want to protest by not watching the NFL because that's just the way that you feel, have at it. But all I'm saying is, don't expect that protest of not watching the NFL to directly have an effect on decisions that the NFL makes. That's not how sports economics work in the NFL. It does not work that way. The viewership numbers are not the deciding, driving metric that the NFL is looking at when they're making decisions about how to run their league. They're just not. It's just not the way that it's done. So keep that in mind when you're making your protest. If you want to make a dent in the NFL, you definitely want to hit them in the pocketbook, but you want to hit them through their merchandise sales, buying less merch when you're at the stadium or off NFLshop.com or whatever. You want to hit them by not going to the games, not paying ticket money to go to the games, because then it's not just not buying a ticket. You're not buying parking. You're not buying concessions. You're not buying merchandise, whatever those things are that are tied into the local individual franchise. You're not buying those things either. And all of that rolls up collectively to the NFL at a corporate level. But most importantly, you want to hit those advertisers and product sponsors right where it hurts and get under their skin and make them uncomfortable, so uncomfortable to the point of where they would want to pull away from the NFL or work to affect change in the background for whatever the issue is that people are protesting about. And there's a lot of issues that you could protest the NFL about, from concussions to treatment of Colin Kaepernick to tolerance of domestic abuse to just overall violence of the game. Whatever those issues are, there's a lot of issues that people would want to be protesting about. And the last key thing that I will leave you with is have a clear outcome of what you want to have happen through your protest. I'll give you an example. Back during the civil rights era, when black people were required to sit at the back of the bus down south, they basically took those black patrons for granted, treated them like second-class citizens, but gladly took their money. And basically, black people got fed up with it, and they said, enough. We will boycott the bus company in Montgomery, Alabama. How did they do that? They pulled everyone off the buses. They said, if you normally rode the bus to get to your job, if you normally rode the bus to get to your school or whatever you had to do in your day, don't ride the bus. Don't ride the bus. Don't get on the bus. Don't give them your money. And people adhered to that pretty much in one block. And by doing that, they got the attention of the Montgomery Bus Company, and changes were made as a result of that protest. How did people get from their homes to their jobs, or from their homes to school, or school back to home, or whatever the travels are that they had? They set up an independent network of black-owned taxis and other transportation options that people could use to get around town that basically circumvented the bus company in Montgomery. So that's how the process worked, and they got the desired outcome that they were looking for, changes in how black people were treated when they rode the buses in the city of Montgomery. That's the way that a protest works. And you do that type of protest in today's world, 21st century, with social media and everything else at your disposal, by targeting the advertisers, using social media, using actual old school protests, using putting that kind of pressure on those advertisers to get them to begin to effect change within the NFL. If you want to protest like that. Protesting by not watching the NFL on TV is not really going to do anything to the NFL. It may make you feel good, and if it makes you feel good like you're doing something, that's your decision, but it's not really going to affect the decision of the NFL one way or another when they decide what to do. So that's today's show on the McCormick View. We're talking about protesting. We're talking about the NFL. We're talking about Colin Kaepernick. I just wanted to put that information out there for you so that you would be a little bit more informed about how protests actually work in the world of sports economics specific to the NFL. Thanks for listening. I'm Kevin McCormick. We'll see you next time on the McCormick View.